After the death of the great leader Moses, a new chapter began for the people of Israel. Joshua, Moses' trusted successor, was chosen by God to take his place. His mission was clear and monumental: lead the Israelites across the Jordan River and into the land God had promised them generations ago. But as they stood on the edge of this new beginning, a formidable obstacle loomed before them: the city of Jericho. Jericho wasn't just any city. It was a fortress renowned for its impenetrable defenses. Massive, towering walls encircled the entire city, a symbol of human strength and security. The gates were sealed shut, a stark message to any would-be invaders. No one entered and no one left. From a human perspective, conquering Jericho seemed like an impossible task. It was a military nightmare, a city designed to withstand any assault. But in the face of this impossible challenge, God spoke to Joshua. His words were not of strategy or warfare, but of assurance. He said, "See, I have delivered Jericho into your hands, along with its king and its fighting men." Notice the tense God used, "have delivered." In God's eyes, the victory was already won. The outcome was settled before the first step was even taken. The only thing left was for Israel to walk in that victory. What came next, however, was a plan so unconventional, so bizarre, that it defied all military logic. God didn't command Joshua to build siege engines, to dig tunnels, or to starve the city out. There were no instructions for battering rams or scaling ladders. Instead, God's battle plan was a test of faith, a lesson in obedience. He gave Joshua a very specific set of instructions. The armed men of Israel were to march around the city once a day. That's it, just walk. This was to be repeated for 6 consecutive days. Leading the procession would be 7 priests, each carrying a shofar, a trumpet made from a ram's horn. And following them, the most sacred object in all of Israel, the Ark of the Covenant, representing the very presence of God. And there was one more crucial instruction: absolute silence. As they marched, the entire nation was forbidden to speak. No battle cries, no taunts, no whispers. The only sound was to be the shuffling of feet on the dusty ground and the solemn blast of the priests' trumpets. This silence was an act of discipline, a way of focusing their hearts and minds not on the giant walls, but on the God who was with them. Then God laid out the plan for the 7th day. On this final day, the routine would change dramatically. They were not to march around the city just once, but 7 times. And after the 7th lap, when the priests let out a long, final blast on their trumpets, Joshua was to give the command, and the entire nation was to let out a mighty shout. A shout of faith, a shout of victory. Joshua, demonstrating his own faith and leadership, didn't question God's strange plan. He relayed every detail to the people, and to their credit, they obeyed. They placed their trust in Joshua, and through him, in the God who had delivered them from Egypt. So, on the first day, the incredible procession began. The army of Israel, silent and orderly, marched once around the city of Jericho. Imagine the scene from the walls. The soldiers of Jericho, watching this strange parade, must have been utterly confused. Were they being mocked? Was this some kind of psychological trick? But as the Israelites completed their single lap and returned to their camp, nothing happened. The walls stood firm. On the 2nd day, they did it again. The same silent march, the same single lap, the same trumpet blasts. And again, nothing. The walls of Jericho remained as imposing as ever. Day 3, Day 4, Day 5, Day 6, the same routine. Each day required immense patience and unwavering faith. It would have been so easy to doubt, to question, to feel foolish, but they held on. They trusted the process. They obeyed the command, even when it made no human sense. Then came the 7th day. The Israelites rose at dawn, their hearts filled with anticipation. This was the day of fulfillment. They began to march, once around the city, and a second time, a third. The tension must have been building with every step. 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, the sun was climbing higher in the sky. Finally, they completed the 7th and final lap. The priests raised their trumpets to their lips and blew a long, powerful blast. The moment had arrived. Joshua turned to the people, and his voice rang out with authority. "Shout, for the Lord has given you the city." And in that instant, a sound like thunder erupted from the throats of the people, a unified, earth-shaking shout of faith and triumph. And at that very moment, the impossible happened. The great walls of Jericho, the symbol of human pride and strength, didn't just crack or crumble. They collapsed. They fell flat into the ground, creating a ramp of rubble leading directly into the heart of the city. The impenetrable fortress was suddenly wide open. With the way cleared, the army of Israel charged straight ahead, every man for himself, into the now defenseless city. The victory was swift and complete, just as God had promised. Jericho was conquered. In the midst of this overwhelming victory, a promise was kept. Before the siege, Joshua had sent 2 spies into Jericho, and they had been hidden by a woman named Rahab. She had risked her life because she believed in the power of Israel's God. In return, the spies promised that she and her family would be spared, and they were. As the walls fell around her, Rahab's house, which was built into the city wall itself, miraculously remained standing. Her faith saved her and her entire household. Following God's specific command, the city and everything in it was devoted to the Lord for destruction. Joshua sternly warned the people not to take any of the spoils for themselves. After the victory, Joshua pronounced a curse on the ruins of Jericho, declaring that anyone who dared to rebuild the city would do so at a terrible cost, the loss of their own children. The news of this incredible event spread like wildfire throughout the region. The fame of Joshua, and more importantly, the fame of his God, grew immense. The fall of Jericho was a powerful statement. It wasn't a victory won by military might, brilliant strategy, or superior weapons. It was a victory won by simple, radical obedience. The people of Israel trusted God's instructions, no matter how illogical they seemed. The walls didn't fall because of the sound waves from a shout. They fell because of the faith behind that shout. This miraculous event was the first step in Israel's conquest of the Promised Land, and it served as an undeniable confirmation that God was with them, fighting their battles for them. The story of Jericho has echoed through the centuries as a timeless lesson. It teaches us that true victory comes through obedience to God. It shows us that faith is not a passive feeling, but an active trust that leads to action. And it reminds us that God's power is never limited by our human understanding or by the walls we face in our own lives. When we dare to follow God's word, even when it doesn't make sense, the impossible can become reality. The walls that stand firm against all human effort cannot stand against faith. Thank you for watching. If this story inspired you, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that explores the powerful truths of history. See you in the next video.